Hello everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
Yep, thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Can one of you please
मैं
confirm
अपने
if
को
my
सच
screen
में
share is visible? Is beyond mute? Is my screen share visible?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, welcome to our day 2 training program. The agenda for today is discussing about the API client and server architecture. Yesterday, we had a quick recap about what is a client and examples of client. And we also discussed about what is a server and examples of server. Typically, client acts as a consumer, server acts as a producer. Client submits a request, server gives a response. Now we'll talk about a detailed understanding about client and server architecture by drawing it. So I'm taking to my MS Paint application. And let me say this is the client we're talking about. And this is the server that we are talking about. Okay. So I'll say this is the client which is sending a request, and this is the server which is receiving the responses, right? Let me just push it up. Okay. So something that we are definitely aware of is the client sends a request and server receives the server gives back a response. So I will say this client is sending a request and the server is giving a response, right? So I will say this guy is sending a request. Let's call it as API request. And we are getting a response, which is an API response. Let's talk about an example of a request and an example of a response. And then we'll talk about the rest of the parameters in today's class. I hope my my screen share is clearly visible for everyone. So an example of a request can be anything. Yeah. So when I type oracle.com, that is a request I'm sending on the browser. And we get the response from the server, which typically is a HTML page, right? This is a HTML response we are getting from the server. So this is one example of a request. And let me write down all the requests that I'm typing. And we also have received response, and we have received it in HTML format. If I talk about another example, this one that I'm typing. So the request I have sent is this one. And you see we have got a JSON response here. It's in the key and value pair structure. So I will say this is the request I have sent. And this time I have got the response in JSON format. Similarly, if I change the request, you see this is the request I have sent and we have got an XML response. Clearly you can see here it is an XML response. So I will say this is the request I have sent and the response I have received is in XML format. So the point that you have to understand is whenever the client, which is a browser in this case, is sending a request to server, server is receiving it, processing it, and giving back a response. The catch here is the response can be in any format. Sometimes it will be in HTML, sometimes it will be in JSON, sometimes it can be in XML, sometimes it can be in text format, sometimes it can be in YAML format, sometimes it can be audio, video, anything, right? So that's the first key takeaway that you have to remember, that when you are testing APIs by sending a request, the response from server can come in any format depending on how the developer has designed it and deployed it on the server side. Okay, that's point one I want everyone to note. Now, the second point is, along with API request, there are so many things that goes to server. All we know is, yeah, API request is going from client to server. But API request is accompanied by a lot of other factors that we need to discuss. The next thing that we are talking about is protocol. So every API request is accompanied by a protocol. And I'm sure you heard of protocol so many times in your projects, in your college days also. A protocol is a set of rules, guidelines, and standards that helps client and server communicate with each other so that data transfer can happen, right? So I'll just write the definition here. So if someone says, what is a protocol? You have to say, it is a set of rules, regulations, guidelines that abides how client and server can communicate with each other. Okay. Because of the protocol only, client is able to send a request and server is able to give a response. And there are so many examples of protocols available on the internet. And I'm sure you're all aware of them. So we have HTTP protocol, HTTPS protocol. So HTTP is one protocol, HTTPS is another protocol, FTP is there, SFTP is there. Then we have MQTT, SQL protocol, JDBC protocol, SMTP protocol, IMAP protocol, POP3 protocol, LDAP protocol, JMS protocol, GraphQL protocol, right, etc. There are so many protocols available based on your usage. Of course, I'm not here to teach all the protocols. Our intention is only the first two protocols, HTTP and HTTPS, because that's what we use in our API testing. Let's talk about FTP. FTP or SFTP is used to transfer files from FTP client to FTP server. MQTT protocol is used to handle big volumes of data. SQL protocol is used in SQL databases. JDBC protocol is used in Java database connectivity databases. SMTP stands for Simple Email Transfer Protocol. We use this for sending messages or sending emails. IMAP and POP3 are used for receiving messages or receiving emails. LDAP protocol stands for Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, which is used in Windows Active Directory. JMS is Java Messaging Services, which is outdated. GraphQL is the Facebook protocol, which is also used in API testing. Now, in most of the API testings, I would say 99% of your APIs testing will be with HTTP and HTTPS only. Let's talk a little bit about HTTP and HTTPS because we need to write some test cases as well around it. Okay. So if I talk about HTTP protocol, I'm sure everyone is aware of the full form of HTTP protocol, right? So it stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That is the full form. And why did the internet designed this protocol? Simple, to transfer data between client and server. That data can be a document, can be a text file, can be an image file, can be an audio file, can be a video file, can be a PDF, can be anything, whatnot. Anything can be transferred, including zipped content or unzipped content. So I will say it is used to transfer data between client and server, meaning client can send it to server and server can send it to client. But there is a problem with HTTP protocol. It is an unsecured protocol by design, meaning it's a manufacturing defect that HTTP protocol has got. It is called as or referred to as insecure protocol. The reason is whatever that data you are transferring from client to server, that data goes in a plain text format. So example, if this client says, I love you. And this is the message the client is sending to server, right? In between, there is a hacker. Let's say Kiran is a hacker. Kiran can see the data as it is because Kiran is sniffing on the communication between client and server using some third-party tools. Kiran found out that client is sending a proposal to server. What Kiran will do, he will change it as, I hate you. Finally, what will happen? The message I hate you will go to server, not I love you. So by the time it goes to server, it will be I hate you. And what does the server do? It will also give a written message saying, I hate you again. I hate you as well. Then client gets a rejection for his proposal. Client was nice, but server was not nice because a hacker is playing around with the emotions between client and server, right? Now, this is a funny example I took, but typically client won't be sending that foolish message here. Client would be sending probably some user credentials sometimes, maybe a username and a password. Let's say the username is Tiger and the password is Lion to log in into Gmail, let's say. And the hacker who sees this figures out that there is a username called Tiger and password as Lion. So hacker also will log in on his computer, and probably he can delete the emails, send dirty emails, or delete the email account altogether, or he can start sending threatening emails to some other people because he hacked the credentials. Why? Because this data is going in plain text format. Anyone can read it. That is the problem we have with HTTP protocol. Okay. So it is an unsecured, right? Not insecure. It is an unsecured protocol because the data transfer between client and server is in plain text format. It's not encrypted. It's a very old protocol. HTTP was designed probably 1980s or 1970s or maybe 1980s only. So in those days, 1980s, we never had Facebook, we never had Gmail, we never had Orkut, YouTube, we never had online transfer of money, we never had logging into emails, we never had chatting process. In 1970s or 1980s, when there was internet, it is all about opening www.something.com and you have content to read. So it's like a radio. In when HTTP was introduced, it was called Web 1.0 era, where it was working like a radio, one-way communication. You cannot like, you cannot share, you cannot comment, you cannot log in, you cannot log out, you cannot transfer anything. It's like a paper. You have to just read it. It's a digital paper, I would say. That's why the internet thought HTTP is enough in those days. But still, it's an unsecured protocol if I'm talking today, right? So that is a problem we had with HTTP protocol. And since it's an unsecured protocol, no one recommends to use this protocol. So I would say this protocol is not recommended in API usage or web application usage or mobile application usage or desktop applications usage. Wherever you have the word internet, this protocol is not recommended. Okay. So since it's it's not recommended, we should put it in red color. Now, obviously, when there is a drawback, someone has to fix it. And the World Wide Web Consortium fixed it by introducing HTTPS protocol. HTTPS stands for the same pointers. I'll just copy, paste it here. And I will say, this is obviously a better one. So put it in green. It is called Hypertext Transfer Protocol with security. That S stands for security. It is also used to transfer data between client and server. And it is obviously a secured protocol because the data transfer between these two things is in encrypted format. It's a format which only client or server can understand. No one else can understand. So if the client is sending the username as Tiger and the password as Lion, when the hacker sees it, he won't see Tiger. He will see some nonsense data. And the password is Lion. Only client and server will read it as Lion, whereas the hacker, he will see something like this. So hacker does not understand what is this rubbish data. That is what is happening in HTTPS. And obviously, this protocol is recommended. And this protocol is designed in Web 2.0 era when the concept of chatting, the concept of emails was introduced in the late 90s, almost 1997, 1998. That's when HTTPS was introduced. And that was called as Web 2.0 era. So I can probably say introduced in Web 1.0 era. And this one introduced in Web 2.0 era. Okay. I mean, when you're talking to someone, in your office, I think you have to use these words, to get that respect for you. Okay, this is done. Now the question is, how is this secured protocol? Just by adding the letter S, it became secured. Was it so easy that, okay, I add letter S and it became secured? No, that's not how it was secured. There is a reason how it became secured. So the industry, what they did is, they used some cryptographic protocols. So I will say it uses cryptographic protocols such as SSL or TLS. So HTTPS was using a secret cryptographic protocol SSL or TLS. SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. Okay, that is the abbreviation, by the way. What happened is this normal HTTP protocol, which is unsecured, when it was given the power of SSL, thus formed HTTPS. Or HTTP, when given the power of TLS, thus formed HTTPS. Okay. Now, so SSL was used in the initial days. I would say probably when HTTPS was introduced in beginnings of or late 90s, SSL was used. Today, SSL is not recommended. So I would say this is outdated. SSL is outdated today and TLS is latest. So you have to write a test case that do not use SSL certificate in your APIs for HTTPS. So I'm writing my first test case now. Test case 1 is ensure the APIs do not use HTTP protocol as it is unsecured. That is the first test case. Test case 2 is ensure the APIs uses HTTPS protocol as it is secured. The third test case is ensure the APIs do not use SSL version of HTTPS as SSL is outdated. And there are still some projects where they are still using the SSL version. I found it in my projects. So these are my test cases when I'm teaching you client and server architecture. And the test cases are related to protocol only. Okay. So TLS is latest. So I have to recommend my developer to use TLS. So I will say another test case. Ensure the APIs uses TLS version of HTTPS as TLS is latest. Now within TLS, there comes a problem. See, the hackers are also getting advanced as the technology is getting advanced. So hackers started saying, hey, SSL, we are able to crack and we are able to see your passwords, secure data. That's when TLS came into picture and replaced SSL. So when TLS was introduced, we had a TLS version 1.0 and TLS 1.0 was saving us. But again, this became outdated because hackers are able to decrypt even TLS version 1.0. Then 1.1 came into picture and we were safe. But again, this was also outdated because hackers are able to decrypt even this version. Then TLS version 1.2 came into picture. We were happy for 1 or 2 years, and then again hackers are able to break this one also. So that became outdated. Now today we are using TLS version 1.3. So now the test case is within TLS, I will say ensure the APIs do not use TLS versions version 1.0, version 1.1, version 1.2 as they are outdated. If you use them, the chances are that your APIs can be hacked by the hackers. So ensure the APIs uses TLS version 1.3 as it is latest. So we have got 6 test cases, guys, while we are talking about the protocols itself. Okay. So now if I come back to my client and server architecture, under the protocol, I can say we have 2 protocols, HTTP, HTTPS. And HTTP will be in red color, HTTPS will be in green color as this is what is recommended. Okay, in bracket I can say TLS version 1.3 is what you have to use. Am I clear, guys? Until this point, any questions from anyone?
Kiran, so sometimes people who are in SSL, they want to migrate so that migration also is done from SSL to TLS?
Yes, possible. Typically, these certificates are they expire every 1 year. So usually you buy a new TLS when the old certificate is expiring. And the next question is, how will I find whether my website or API is using TLS or SSL? I'll also show that to you. If I talk about Isha Training Solutions, let's just go to their website, Isha Training Solutions. Question one is, we'll find out whether they are using HTTP or HTTPS. If you click on the address bar, it is pretty much clear they are using HTTPS, right? You are seeing HTTPS. And if you click on this, you'll see a message, connection is secured. Fine, Isha Training Solutions is using HTTPS, but is it a TLS or SSL? How will I know? On your Chrome browser, just do a right click on inspect at the bottom, and there is a tab available on the on the horizontal bar called security. Okay, I'm not seeing it now. So to see this option security, you have to click on this, settings icon or gear icon. We have to search where is that option security there. I come to experiments tab and search for security. Okay. Somewhere I saw that actually it was enabled. Theme panel. Yeah, we got it. I just restored the settings. So all I can do is right click on your browser, go to inspect, and here you will see something called security. Click on it. And now it says reload to view the details. Just refresh the page. And here you see Isha Training Solutions under main. Click on it. And you can see here what is that protocol Isha team is using, TLS version 1.3, which is latest. I can try any other API also, http bin.org. This is one API request. And if I click on this HTTP on the security, see it is using TLS version 1.2, which is outdated. So that's a bug in this API. So under the security tab, you can find it. Okay, that's one simple knowledge check that I'm doing. Okay, so now we understood about different test cases that are related to protocol as well, and you have to keep this in mind. These are the regular basic test cases that we do while doing any testing, be it a web application testing or APIs. But if someone says, "Can you tell me some basic test cases?" without even looking at the project, right? Without even looking at the APIs, so these kind of test cases should come to your mind. Okay, so now we'll go to the next one. So in the diagram, if you see, the next one that I'm talking about is the API request uses protocol, and it also uses something called HTTP methods, also called as HTTP verbs. I'm sure you heard of HTTP methods and HTTP verbs, like get, post, put, patch, delete. That is what I mean. But the question is, what exactly is a HTTP method? Can someone know it? Like what? How do you define it? Right. So I will say HTTP methods. I will say it describes the type of client request being sent to the server. So that is the definition of HTTP method. Someone says, what is HTTP methods? We say get, post, put, patch, delete. No, they are examples for HTTP methods. We should also have a definition for it. Like, why do we have HTTP method? Simple, they describe the type of client request. Simple example is, these days, if you see in LinkedIn, like if you go to my LinkedIn profile or your LinkedIn profile, you see the name, right? But when I say the name is Kiran, there are certain people in the world, right? Example, if I talk about Africa or any other country, right? America, Europe, Germany, how can they say that Kiran means he or she? They do not know, right? In LinkedIn, now people are adding this word, he, him, like that. For she, they're adding she or her to tell that the gender is female or male, right? So this is describing who is Kiran. Similarly, HTTP method is describing what type of request you are sending to server. Okay. So examples of HTTP methods are whatever we are talking about: get method, post method, put method, patch method, delete method. Apart from this, we have so many others like options, head, echo, tail, trace, debug. So many methods are there. But we are interested only in these 5 methods. So I will say get method, the definition is it is used to retrieve or read existing data from the server or from the database. So we use HTTP method as get when your requirement is go to the server and say, hey server, you have something called Kiran salary in the table. So fetch Kiran salary and print it on the console. It says, okay, fine, I could see Kiran salary as $100. Okay, I'm printing here $100, something like that. So it's called as get method. And if I talk about post method, it is used to create new data on the server or on the database. So whenever my requirement is to create some data in the database, I should use post method in APIs as a developer or as a tester. So I will tell the server that, hey, Kiran has joined our organization. His new salary is $200. So please create that his payroll is $200. So the database is okay, entry added, his salary is $200. So that's like a creating data in the database. Database is inside the server. That's like post method. Then I talk about put method. It is used to update or modify or replace existing data on the server or on the database. So we use this to update data. So I go to the database and say, hey, it's been 6 months. Kiran is helping us, deliver the projects. We have to increase his salary from $200 to $250. So his new salary has been revised, updated, modified from $200 to $250. That can be done using put method. Okay. And when it comes to patch method, the definition is still the same, but there is a difference between put and patch. Patch is used only for partial updates. Put is used for full updates or partial updates. Example, after 6 months, the management said, Kiran, we are promoting you to senior trainer, plus your salary is $250. So 2 updates are happening, which is like full updates. I can have either, there are only 2 fields to update. One field, his new designation. Second field, his new salary. So to update both the fields, we have to use put method. But if I want to update only the salary, Kiran is not getting a designation change. His position is still the normal trainer, but his salary is becoming $250. So it's a partial update. Only one field is getting updated out of many fields, right? That's called as patch. That's where the developers use this patch method. And then we have delete method. It is used to delete existing data on the server or on the database. So probably Kiran found a better job and he says, okay, bye-bye company. So they delete my record from the database because I'm no longer associated with them. So that's like delete action. Regular examples on the internet for get method is when you browse any web page, it's a get method. If you're downloading a file from the internet, it's a get method. You have made an order in Amazon online and you're viewing it. You're viewing an existing order is a get method. Coming to post method, when you send an email, when you send a WhatsApp message, they're all post methods. When I purchase something online, it's a post method. Whether I purchase an iPhone or a movie ticket or some biryani or some pizza, it's all the post methods. And when I update my profile picture on WhatsApp, that's a put or patch. When I update my settings in the Facebook profile or LinkedIn profile, that's a patch or put method. And I I decide to delete my Facebook account. That's a delete. I'm deleting my WhatsApp messages. That's a delete action. I'm deleting my emails. I'm deactivating social media accounts. They're all examples of delete methods. So an API request, when you are sending from client to server, it will be associated with HTTP methods like this. Without HTTP methods, no API request will be going to server. Okay, that's about the third aspect of API request. Am I clear? Any questions over there?
Sometimes there will be dimensions like 2-dimension client server architect and 3-dimension. So those also cover under this, like two tier and 3-tier.
Yeah. See, the client and server architecture is the same, whether it is a 2-tier or 3-tier or 100-tier. The architecture I'm discussing is common. Okay, if there are no questions on HTTP methods, the fourth thing that goes from client to server is request headers. I'm not sure if you have heard of request headers, but that's something pretty much important while doing API testing. So I will say here request headers. So what is request headers? Let me write the definition and then give under examples. It is the additional metadata sent by client to the server along with client request. So request headers is sent by client to server, and request headers contains additional information. Okay. Now what is that additional information? Example, see, when I come to the, let's say I'm going to the bank and I meet the bank manager, my request is I need 1 crore home loan. That's my request. The response from bank manager can be, okay, Kiran, approved, or sorry, Kiran, we cannot approve it. So these are the two responses. But before the bank manager gives me a response, I will not just stare at his face, right, saying, okay, give me 1 crore home loan. I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm working for a company called IBM and I'm making a salary of this much. I have this savings in my account. I don't have any other EMIs. I don't have any credit cards. I don't owe money to anyone. I have a fantastic CIBIL score. And you know what? I have an account in your bank. You can check my credit records. You can check my history, how I have been banking with you guys. So this is all the additional information I'm giving to the bank manager so that he can approve my loan. That additional information is called as request headers. So when the client and server are talking to each other, client simply says, okay, my request is oracle.com or Isha Training Solutions.com. Along with that request, some additional information also will be sent from client to the server. What is that? Let me write few of them. I cannot write all of them because there are 50 plus request headers. You have connection, user agent, you have accept language, you have accept, you have content type, you have authorization, etc. So many are there. We'll just talk about few of them. Connection header will tell whether client and server are connected with each other or still not connected with each other. Which means if I want home loan, first I should go to the bank. That is like establishing a connection. And I should meet the bank manager. That is like establishing connection. Then only the request will go that I need home loan. Similarly, when the client wants to send a request like, ICICI bank.com or oracle.com, first it has to establish a connection with the server. So once the connection is established, its value will be keep alive, meaning client and server are connected. If client and server are not yet connected, the value will be closed. So we are going to use these keywords in rest assured automation testing. So please pay very attention. Whatever I'm teaching, we are going to use practically. And at that point of time, you should not have a question, what is connection? So therefore, pay very close attention. User agent will tell from where the request is coming. Like, is the request coming from Chrome browser and Windows, or Chrome browser and Mac, or Firefox and Mac, or Safari and Mac? So from where the request is coming, like the bank manager will ask me, okay, Kiran, but where do you stay? So I tell him that this is the area where I stay, right? So user agent will tell the operating system details plus the browser name and version details from where we are sending the request. So server will know your OS details. Server will know your browser details because user agent is telling it already. Then you have accept language, which means when the bank manager is speaking to me in, let's say, some other language, like let's say Hindi, and I don't understand Hindi, I'll tell, hey, hold on, speak either in English or in Telugu because I understand only these two languages. So I'm telling him what language I'm comfortable with if you are giving me an answer. Similarly, when client and server are talking to each other, server says, okay, well, I'll give you the response in French. Client says, no, I understand English, give me the response in English. So accept language will have values like English United States or English Great Britain, GB, or English India, etc. like that. If the acceptance is in English, if it's in Chinese, you will see something like Chinese or something like this. Accept. The next one is server says, okay, I'm going to give you a response, but I'm going to give you in XML format. And client says, sorry, I don't accept XML. I want only in JSON. Then you have to specify in which format you want it. So this can have the value as JSON or XML or HTML. And if you're expecting images, you will specify whether you want it in JPEG format or PNG format like that. So the format in which you are expecting response should also be specified in the accept header. And the developer takes care of all those things, but we will test them. Content type. Content type talks about in which format you are giving the data to server. Like when the bank manager says, Kiran, you have to pay a fee of 10,000, then we can process your loan request. I will say, okay, show me your QR scanner. I will pay it through PhonePe or Google Pay. Bank manager says, no, we don't accept those payments. You have to deposit a DD, demand a draft or a check in the favor of bank name. So that is a format in which he is accepting it. And that is a format in which I am sending money to his bank. Similarly, content type will talk about in which format you are sending data to server. So are you sending the data to server in HTML format or JSON format or XML or some other format? You have to specify. Okay, like that. And authorization will talk about in which, what is the username and password? That credentials will be there in authorization, or any access token if you are using, or any API key that you are using, or OAuth authentication, or some other authentication that you have. So it is nothing but user credentials. All these things is what we are going to send in request headers. Okay, so I will say here in request headers, we will send connection header, user agent header, content type, accept header, accept language header, authorization header. These are about request headers, guys. Any questions here? Please go ahead and put your questions forward now. With this, we have completed 50% of client and server architecture. Over to you if you have questions. Looks like people have raised their hands. Divya?
Yes, Kiran. So what is the difference between the accept and the content type? Because both the
Okay.
values are the same passing.
Content type is what client is sending to server. Accept is in which format server should give response to you. Something like you are asking me money, right? So I will say, okay, I will do Google Pay to you. You will say that, no, Kiran, I will accept only phone pay. That is like accept.
Okay.
And in what way I'm giving you will be content type. I'm also giving you in phone pay only because you wanted that. So Kiran is giving to Divya through phone pay. That is content type.
Okay. So content type talks about the server from the response from server to the client.
No, opposite. Client to server. In the request headers,
Mm-hmm.
content type is from client to server, in which format you are sending the data.
And how
And
about the accept? Yeah.
accept is how the data should come from server to client. This is the definition under request headers. Again,
Okay.
under response headers also you have content type. There the definition will be reversed.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we'll go to the remaining 50% of client and server architecture. So just like request headers, we have response headers here. So this is same story as request headers. So what I will do, I'll just copy this, Control C, paste it, and this is going to be response headers. It is the additional metadata sent by server to the client along with server response. So server also says that, okay, Kiran, I'm giving you additional data. Please take it. Okay. Just like, the bank manager tells Kiran, hey, Kiran, you know what? Your loan is approved. And the reason is he'll give me 10 reasons why the loan is approved. That is additional data. Or he might say, your loan is rejected, Kiran, unfortunately. And the reasons are, he'll give me 100 reasons why the loan is rejected. So that is like response headers for us. So when server and client are talking to each other in API testing, the response headers we get will be connection. Again, client, and whether the server will tell whether server is still connected with client or not. User agent is not there. Accept language will be, so client is telling that I will accept in these languages only. So server says, okay, you gave me multiple choice. I'm giving you the response in English, United States. And client said, I'm going to accept either in JSON or XML or HTML. So server says, okay, you know what? I'm sending you the data in JSON format. And if there are any images, I'm sending to you in PNG format. And content type. Here, the definition of content type is, sorry, here we don't have accept. So here, content type is in which format server is giving response to client. This content type definition is different in response headers because response headers are sent by server. So server is saying that I'm sending you in JSON format. So that is content type. Authorization is never there here. And sometimes you will see the date on which the response is coming. Server name, which server is responding to you, like is IIS server responding to you, or Nginx server responding to you, or Tomcat server, or IBM WebSphere, or Glassfish. Which server is responding to you will be revealed in the field of server. Okay, so these are some response headers. And if I have to write here, you have connection, which tells whether server and client are still connected or not. Content type, this will tell in which format server is sending data to client. Then we have date on which the response is coming, server, which server is giving this response, and the language in which response body is coming will also be given, etc. There are so many others apart from this as well. Any questions, guys, on this? Can you unmute and tell if you have questions or it's clear? Am I audible at least?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So finally, in the response to client architecture, please be on mute. Then we have something called response code and response description. So these are the last two things in client and server architecture. Let's talk about them. So we have something called response code. What response code will do is it will tell what happened to the request sent by client. So I will say the definition is it is a 3-digit status code sent by server to the client to reveal the status of client request. So the client says, hey, I sent a request. What happened to it? Has it passed? Has it failed? Is it still being processed, or you have forwarded that request to another server? So server says, don't worry, I'm going to reveal what happened to it. So it's a 3-digit status code. And the range of this 3-digit status code starts from 100 and it can go all the way until 599. So you see the response code is nearly 500 numbers. As a test engineer or as a developer, we cannot remember all these numbers. Hence, the industry said we will break them into 5 families, 5 classes. So any response code between 100 to 199, we call it as 1XX. And the meaning is they fall under informational responses. Meaning, if the server is giving a code and that code falls between 100 to 199, like 130, you can simply say it's an informational response. Information means your request is not yet processed. It is probably in the pipeline. We are still waiting for the request to come to us. Your request is about to be processed. So some kind of information like that. Example, you say, hey, Kiran, are you starting any performance testing batch? I will say, yeah, I might start in next month. So it is still, not started. I might, that's an information I'm giving you like that. Then we have a response code between 200 to 299. This is 2XX category we call, and they are all treated as successful responses, meaning these responses mean your request was successfully processed by server and you also got a response, which is like I say, hey, tomorrow I'm starting a performance testing batch, please join the demo class. So you got a perfect response, that is successful response. Example, I type oracle.com and the page is loaded on my browser, that is successful response. I'm opening calculator and typing 2 plus 2, the answer came as 4, successful response. I'm logging into Gmail, I can see my new emails, successful response. I clicked on logout, I'm logged out, successful responses. This is what we look in API testing. One test case is verify your APIs are resulting in 2XX responses. Then we have 300 to 399 series, which we call 3XX, which means we call them as redirectional responses, which means the request was sent to server, server is busy, server forwarded that request to another server. That's like redirection. So when your request is forwarded to another server, you will get a redirection message that hold on, your request is forwarded, so you have to wait for more time. Then we have 400 to 499 error codes, 4XX series, which we call it as client-side errors, meaning these are the errors server is telling you, and who is responsible for the error? Client only, meaning the guy who sent the request has made some mistake. Like you are trying to log in with invalid password, that's a client-side error. You are trying to sign up without providing a valid email address, that's like a client-side error. Okay, you're trying to log in with an inactivated or deactivated account, that's a client-side error. Then we have 500 to 599, which we call it as 5XX errors, which is called server-side errors. Meaning server is saying that the error is because from the server side. The error is from the server side because server is busy with some other work. So server is rejecting your request, or server is shut down, server is restarting, server is going through hardware, software updates. Then your request will be rejected, citing a 5XX error. That server is responsible for those errors. Usually in API testing, we do not want to expect 500 errors. So they are treated as bugs. Client-side errors are also treated as bugs, but you can still check whether you have made a mistake. 2XX or success responses, this is what we expect from API testing. So here we have some test cases. What are the test cases? Ensure the APIs do not return 4XX client-side errors. Ensure the APIs do not return 5XX server-side errors. Ensure the APIs return 2XX successful responses. These are the 3 test cases that you have to remember. Again, earlier we have discussed some test cases here. If you see, same test cases, continuation we have here, few more test cases. Okay, so coming back to the architecture here, I will say we have 1XX, 2XX, 3XX, 4XX, and 5XX. Maybe I'll just move it little top here. So 1XX is treated as information, 2XX is treated as success, 3XX is redirectional, 4XX is called as client-side errors, 5XX is called as server-side errors. These are all interview questions, by the way, guys. Basics that people should know when they say they are doing API testing. And whatever I have discussed until now, that's called as client-server architecture. If you can explain this in the interviews or with your customers, I think you're going to have a fantastic appreciation for sure. Not many people in the industry explain in this format. because they're not aware of all these things. I mean, if you're aware of it, well and good, but otherwise you are learning it now. Whatever diagram you see now, right, this is what we test in client and server architecture. In fact, when you're doing API testing, whether you are doing it with REST Assure tool or Postman tool, this is the basic things that we have to learn. I think I'll put this diagram on the top. Okay, now there are so many response codes that we are going to discuss probably tomorrow. I think we don't have time today. Maybe I'll take some questions from you guys. So I'll also tell here what is the agenda for tomorrow so that you are prepared to be coming up with that point tomorrow. So I'll say frequently used response codes. So under the 2xx category, what are the common response codes under 4xx, under 5xx? We are going to discuss this tomorrow, followed by the 3-tier architecture model, where I'm going to explain front-end, back-end, server, front-end system, back-end system, server or database system. After that, the topic we are going to talk about is, we may not cover everything tomorrow. Then we are going to talk about evolution of APIs, types of APIs, and API syntax. So under evolution of APIs also, we have some categorizations, which I will talk later. Under types of APIs also, we have some categorizations, and then API syntax. With this, we'll have fantastic foundation on the topics. All these things will take probably 2 classes. Okay. After that only we'll touch REST Assure tool and the setup of REST Assure tool. Okay. So that's all I have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session for today. Over to you, Divya, if you have questions.
Yes, Kiran. So the series, like as you mentioned, 1x, 2x, 3x. So for the same response, why we need the 99 series from 100 to 199? Is there any difference?
100 to 199, we call it as that information, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah, but
means,
the purpose is same, right? So for example, 200 to 299 mentioned as a successful response. So is there any difference between the 200 and 201, 202?
yes, there is a difference. That is what I'll show you tomorrow.
Okay.
Right now, I gave you a general formula. Like any number from 200 to 299 is success.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But 201 has a different meaning, 204 has a different meaning. Something like you got a job. That's like general. Now you are self-sufficient. But what is the salary is also important, right? To confirm whether you are self-sufficient or skill dependent. If your salary is just 10,000 because you got a job in Infosys, it's only 10,000 per month. So you can't do anything. Probably you can do a recharge for 4 members in the family, not beyond that. Right? So getting a job is like, okay, success family from 200 to 299. Then slowly you reveal that my salary is only 5,000 rupees or only 20,000 rupees. That is like getting detailed into 201, 202, 203, 400, 401, 402. That discussion I will do tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Hello,
So,
Kiran.
yes, go ahead.
The the content type of the response header means from server to the client is always in JSON format, or it can be in other format also.
It can be in any format, JSON, XML, text, HTML. It can be in any format, but 99% of the times the industry is preferring JSON.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so Ahana has a question, any application which is not using client and server architecture are typically the standalone applications that you install on your computer, right? Example, if I say calculator, whatever you see on my screen, calculator, it is not using client and server architecture. Reason, it does not need internet connection, right? I can just work on it. It's a standalone application. And the MS Paint I'm opening, it does not need client server architecture because it is not talking to internet. So simple answer is any application which does not need internet is an answer to your question. Any application that does not need a database is an answer to your question. Calculator, my Word document, my MS Paint, my PowerPoint presentation, or my Notepad, or any other application that you have installed on your computer, right? Example, I have installed a small game. I Googled it, said, download so-and-so game, that game is downloaded. After that, if I'm not using internet, still I'm able to play the game. It does not need client and server architecture. So you still have a lot of applications for that, but that is a gone era. Like without client and server architecture, today no one prepares it unless it is a purely developed for Windows operating system. Okay. And Reshma, go ahead if you have a question. Komal Patil or Vinodini, go ahead and complete your questions, guys. We don't have time much. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is like we have different codes, right? Like the last codes which is mentioned as like negative, which is server blockers, like even 200 it's a positive, and the 100 series is like negative or positive. Like I
Neutral.
didn't understand it.
Neutral.
Neutral.
1xx and 3xx are neutral because no decisions are made at 1xx and 3xx. Decisions are made only at 2xx, which is success, 4xx, which is an error, 5xx, which is an error. So something like, I'm a real estate. Let's say, I'm asking you, hey, Reshma, please enroll in this course. You are like, okay, Kiran, let me think. That is information. Again, the next day I'm asking you, are you enrolling, Reshma? You are like, let me ask my family members. So you are redirecting it. So both are neutral. You said, let me think, neutral, information response. You said, I will talk to my parents and get back to you, Kiran. That is redirection because you are dependent on someone now. Later you come back and say, Kiran, I'm sorry, I cannot enroll because I don't have money now. So you're not enrolling because of your problem. That is server side error. If you say, Kiran, I'm not enrolling because I didn't like the way you are teaching, that is Kiran problem, right? So that is server error. And when you say you don't have money right now this month, that is client side error. And when you say, Kiran, I'm enrolling right away, that is success. Understood now?
Yeah, got it. But in the Postman manual wise, we can see like 200. I think I'm dragging the question. If I want, I can ask. The 200 codes will be shown in the green color. That way we can see, right?
No, in Postman, you will see not only 2xx, you will see 3xx also,
Yeah,
4xx
yeah, yeah,
also,
yeah.
5xx also.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be in the red colors and 200 series will be shown in green color. And what would be the one series? I never observed that actually.
Okay, one series
It-
is always hidden. We cannot see one
Oh,
series. It is always hidden. 3xx you can see probably. Example, I think my screen share is still there. So I can show you 3xx right now. If I'm going to inspect network tab, just to see some previous calls that I had. You see, all of them are 200, 200, 200, right? All of them are 200 right now. I'll just clear them. I will type some Oracle URL. And you see here 302. Okay, 200, 200, 200. Somewhere I saw 302. I think they got redirected to success. So initially it was 300, later it became 200. So let me try something else. Isha Training Solutions. If you go to network tab, you will definitely see. So here you see 200.
Kiran, if you can do like a sign in and remove the .com at the end, it will come up with 300.
Yeah. So 204 is also there. And if I have to show you 3xx, I can try with the HTTP protocol, http:// Now you see 301 because Google redirected me from HTTP to HTTPS. So that is 301. And 204, 200. And if I make a mistake like google.com/kiran.html, that page does not exist. So 404 I got like that. Yeah, Komal Patil, Vinodini, go ahead with your questions if you have.
May I?
Yeah.
Kiran, what is the difference between REST API, RESTful API, and SOAP UI?
Okay, so I said I'm teaching evolution of APIs, right? In the next
Yeah,
topics. So
yeah.
there I will answer your question.
Okay, Kiran. Thank you.
Because it's a lengthy topic, I cannot give you one-liner right now.
Okay. So one more question. So for testing APIs, we use tools like Postman, Rest Assured, and then what are the tools that we use?
So many tools: Postman, Rest Assured, SOAP UI tool, Ready API tool, Catalan Studio, Tailend, Insomnia, Swagger, Apigee, Jmeter, Burp Suite, Wookie. Hundreds of tools are there. One tool is enough. Once you
Okay.
learn one tool, slowly you will learn a second tool, a third tool based on the project requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
So Komal Patel, I think probably when we are talking about practical examples, you will understand authentications, bearer token, basic authorization, what are these cookies. Yeah, they will be part of your request headers. And in Rest Assured, we are going to add it in our request headers because I'm taking APIs which are having these authentications. But the answer is request headers is the answer for your question. Anyone else has questions or we are done? Okay. Thank you very much. I hope I have tried to answer all of your questions. And if you are enjoying the sessions and thinking that there are new things to learn, like every day there will be new thing to learn, guys. If you have not yet completed your enrollments, please think and complete your enrollments. Okay. Because I may not give multiple free classes. Probably today could be the last free class. So please think and message me if you have any question, or message me on the group or one-to-one. That's your choice. And think and please complete your enrollments. Thank you very much. Good night. I'll see you in the next class. Bye-bye.